Hello and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Nicole Loeser, and as we only have an hour to go to get to know each other and to share insights how to bridge arts with other sectors to foster innovation, I try to introduce myself quickly. I'm a serial entrepreneur and curator with a great passion of building meaningful and regenerative futures. And I must say I wear a lot of different hats. Besides others, I'm board director at the Institute for Art and Innovation, but also a lecturer for social design at the Berlin School of Design and Communication. And I love to initiate and realize collaborative projects with interesting people from around the world who seem to share my values and visions for creating a better world. Lately, I also co-founded the Art for Future Lab, established at the Film University in Babelsberg. And I also started to facilitate future prototyping workshops, supporting companies to define strategies for sustainable business model innovation. And another project was just started on the weekend where I help shaping the collaboration between the Scientists for Futures and Artists for Future, and facilitated the first common visioning workshops, therefore. So in that regard, I will focus today on the topic of future when sharing insights on the different collaboration formats. But after a short introduction of my work and some projects, I would like you then to interact and learn a bit from each other as well. So we will use for that the great virtual post-it wall, Miro, but I will come. But first, I would like you to have a little warm up. I prepared 2 questions for you, and we will use Menti for that. And I will post the link to Menti in the chat. Let's see. So you should see it now. And the first, what are your 3 most favorite body parts? And just type in what you like the most. It could be internal organs or your whatever, teeth. So we have eyes as the first. That's great. I agree. Hand, ear, yay, shoulders, brain, right hand, the head. That's also good. What else? Toes and legs. Okay. No sexual organs so far. Mouth, okay. Feet, that's your favorite, okay? But eyes comes quite often. Wonderful. And now you can enter the next, if that is possible. Let's see. Now the second one is, what do you like most about being human? And you again have 3 words you can type in. Thinking, anything else besides thinking? Communication, creativity, imagination, wonderful. Yeah, sexual intercourse, finally. Humor, soul, yay. Laughing, empathy, observing, creating. Anything else I forgot? Imagination, joy, traveling, yes. Yeah, wonderful. Great. So these questions were part of a 30-question survey by the sociologist and multimedia artist Veronika Witte. And I will now also share my screen again and start my presentation. Okay. Because Veronika Witte did a research project. It's called the Hybrid Figures, and she examined answers from more than 2,000 participants. Her survey focuses on the understanding of our body and its parts, and almost at the end of the survey, participants are asked to draw a human being in the future in 1,000,000 years from now that would only consist of 3 body parts, those you have identified for yourself before. And Veronika analyzes the data then in different ways, and based on questionnaires, she created objects such as this metallic sculpture you can see here, and gave her audience insights, for example, what men or women were mostly thinking of their future body part. So to me, such an artistic research project is interesting because of its approach and furthermore of its outcome and how participants were involved to think about. So why is not working here? Okay, now. Another artist I represent at my gallery Y Concepts is Jovana Popic. She unfortunately experienced the war in Yugoslavia, and her work deals with issues around that. I very appreciate her work called Roots, you can see here. It is based on historical marked glowing plates that pilots in the Second World War had to fly with during the night. I associate it with a faraway goal you set for yourself in the future. It's a kind of blurry and sometimes maybe shifting or reflected and might be changed several times during lifetime. I started my career in the artwork because of a similar idea Yayoi Kusama had. But why is everyone calling for future creation today? And on the other hand, sometimes afraid of thinking about the future? A few weeks ago, I got astonished, I think it was end of October, I got astonished by an announcement by EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She called for a new European Bauhaus. Finally, it seems that artists and cultural workers are welcomed in shaping society. But are artists ready for that? Over the last years, together with many change makers, I've created different collaboration formats to support the transformation processes towards sustainable futures. I believe as we are facing huge global challenges, be it climate change, the loss of biodiversity, massive waste, pollution, or resource scarcity, we urgently require radical understanding and acting. Creativity and digital transformation are therefore demanded in all sectors, enabling change makers to develop social innovations and new business models. We have to be fast and careful. On one hand, the digital transformation has brought us together as a global community and made great learning processes available for us. On the other hand, processes were digitized that are completely ineffective or integrated by us. In that regard, cultural and artistic and design work has a big task, in my opinion, to transfer appropriate ideals and values for positive futures. For transformation, for instance, towards a circular society, we need brave, intelligent, and purpose-driven creatives and leaders to join a global vision to achieve the SDGs. And I like this specific graphic here because it underlines also my understanding that SDG 14 and 15, even as 6 and 13, are the most relevant and the most important, and also we should draw much more attention to these than to all the others. So our work can lead to awareness raising, knowledge transfer, and inspire zest for action and participation. In my opinion, we need all kinds of approaches, experiments, and practices that invite humankind to step into unfamiliar perspective and to get open for the new and accept uncertainty. To me, exhibitions, public and participatory projects where artists and designers are kind of learning labs and co-creation hubs. As a curator, I'm interested in research, interdisciplinary processes, and openly co-created outcomes. I like creating and holding the space for new experiences. I understand my work as an orchestration of plural realities and statements, always combining it with a program of expert sessions and participatory projects. To me, future thinking is a continuous practice of surprises, be it interventions, makeathons, panels, co-creation, and future prototyping workshops. And especially when it comes to future thinking, what is it, on how are we envision the future? To me, it's kind of interesting that we are always in 3 states when communicating. When you like to express something or you like to provoke your counterpart, even when you talk to yourself, you have to use words that describe kind of a historical fact in a way to make you understood in the future, and this is the present. So this is it for me. I hope it's a bit understandable when you see this kind of graphic here, yeah? So when we are talking, we make ourselves sure about what we want to say, but we only can compare what we want to say when we think about past experiences. This is where our language comes, yeah? And then we project it into the future to hope that the person opposite to us can understand us, yeah? And it's kind of a future related process, let's say. But now let's come to the different collaboration formats. One of my most interesting projects I'm related to is the project by Michelangelo Pistoletto. He is one of those Italian figures, and you can compare him a bit with Joseph Beuys. He's now, I think, 86 years old and started already in the 70s to make people aware of transformation societies were needed, in his opinion. And in his project, The Third Paradise, and therefore you see also the sign here with 2 infinite circles and the apples in between, he believes that we are now really in this kind of phase where on the left you see the real apple, so this stands as a symbol for nature. On the right you see the apple with the bite. And this is kind of what we have done in the past decades, let's say, where we became linear economic societies. And now we have to go back to find the true balance of nature and technology so that we are aligned within the planetary boundaries and also have an understanding of the circle we are in. So that's why I also started in the beginning with the circular society. This is a kind of new idea where we can, as societies, live within the planetary boundaries without waste, without pollution, and so on. So this is kind of a big vision, and he calls it the Third Paradise, and all his artworks are now kind of invitations to the public to think about the SDGs and how to achieve them. To me, this is a real art and innovation project because it's based on demopraxy. This is kind of a democratic process where multi-stakeholders are invited, for instance, of different cities, to understand what is the most needed SDGs for that particular area or location. And then it's an annual process where we meet annually for a 3 days workshop with more than 100 stakeholders and define and co-create the SDGs that could be achieved within 1 year. And then after a year, we meet again. And as the artist invites people, it's more like a neutral playground. And this is quite interesting because then people even from big companies enter the process, but nobody comes with his or her status. It's kind of a neutral balance, let's say, of equal people. And here you see also a very famous work. This is already from the 70s, the left one, and on the right one, he is also trying to educate people how to reinforce the real values, let's say, so that we are not, for instance, the fashion industry, not produce too much stuff that we don't need, and instead we would reevaluate the value of created items, let's say, and use them again. For a project, this was happening last year, was by Mika Moka. This is an NGO in Berlin, also combining creative forces for different projects. And here they were invited to think about, with 1,000 people, about the future of the empty Tempelhof. You might know that now we have actually 2 empty airports here in Berlin, right? But the Tempelhof airport has been empty since 11 years. And it's, I think it's 300 square meters that could be used, but somehow there's no money to really envision what can happen there. And Mika Moka people came up with this idea to plant 100,000 trees on top of the airport, of this of these hangars, and invited 1,000 people for one night dinner to brainstorm how we could use this area. And a lot of ideas came up in regard to repair cafes, rental, be it bike rental or tools rental or whatsoever. So it was really a great place to envision future scenarios. Then what I also like is when artists are able to think different perspectives together, let's say, to combine these perspectives. And here, this was a wonderful performance, 3 days long, where a mechanic and a singer were brought together by Heiner Nemeth. And the idea was that we have to get rid of cars. So for the future, we don't need single car or individual cars any longer, because whether it's autonomous traffic or whatsoever. And on the other hand, there are already so many used cars. So we should think of what we should do with all the already produced cars, let's say, and not produce more. And therefore, the artist asked a mechanic to disassemble this specific car. And it took him 72 hours. And the singer was brought in to value all these tools that were invented for building the car. So when a tire was assembled, the singer was like, wow, this was wonderful, so many inventions had to be taken just to create this tire, but now it's time to bring you to the grave, and so on and so on. So this was really a wonderful performance by them. And with the Institute for Art and Innovation, we have co-founded the Social Art Award, because we were interested in if artists are really valuing the social aspect in their work. And of course, there is the term socially engaged art and participatory art and so on, but social art makes it much more easy. And we were just hoping that artists would somehow relate to that term. And in the first year, it was 2017, there was an open call, and artists from 131 countries were replying and recognizing themselves as social artists and being involved in social innovation, which was wonderful to see. And last year we had the first topic for the second open call, and this was peaceful revolutions. And this time artists from 65 countries replied, but all from conflict zones. And this was so heavy. We had, due to Corona, we had the award ceremony online. And some people had to go out, some of my assistants, let's say, because the stories shared were so sad, but on the other hand, also so empowering, that the artist valued the gathering, even online, so tremendously, and asked for more of these kind of online events because they felt alone in their own areas. But when brought together with so many other artists from other conflict zones, it was really, really inspiring. And here you see one of the awardees for this year, and it's from Bogna Krasina, and she actually made a public social art project. And all the sticks you can see here, I think they're almost 300, stand for a murdered woman or a raped woman in India. And there's a movement in India where women identify themselves with this kind of reactive movement. And in that regard, that they wear this kind of pink saris to show that they are more powerful than being this kind of woman that was raped, for instance. So stand as a symbol for the power for a positive future. And then I will come to a project that was funded by the EU Kreativ, under the Kreativ program, the Universal C. And this was also a kind of research project in the beginning, because I felt that for all the big challenges we face nowadays, we need to combine creative forces, and was looking for partners that could understand and wanted to collaborate by bringing artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, but also policymakers and the civil society together to fight water pollution. And that's why it was called the Universal Sea. And I thought in the beginning, okay, we have 3 partners, a museum in Poland, a festival organization in Hungary, and a marine research institution from Germany, and the Foundation for Entrepreneurship here in Berlin, combining not only their strengths and know-how, but also to bring all these different participants together. And it was meant to be that we would have in 1.5 years, I think up to 10 artist in residence programs, and where artists could learn to collaborate in different surroundings and environments. And on the other hand, it was also about finding solutions, tackling the water pollution. In the end, it's always when you plan a project, right? So it was 1.5 years, only 4 partners involved. We thought, it would be great to have maybe 500 artists and 500 entrepreneurs brought together. And we planned around 10 activities, 1 big festivals, but also exhibitions, Pecha Kucha events, but also, of course, workshops. And in the end, we had 70 activities with more than 70 partners in 12 countries, including 20 universities, and more than 5 million people got involved with the project. And we published also a huge book. It's kind of yellow pages, what artists and innovators have been created during this 1.5 years. And here you can see, for instance, also there were public interventions. Here's a work by Lina Klaus. And she did some projects also in Asia, where they collect the plastic waste on the beaches. And she found out, for instance, that, she found out that artists, or even all people involved, they cannot recognize natural from artificial objects any longer. So we need a kind of new approach to value what has been created, but also doesn't belong to the beach, right? So, and she therefore creates these kind of land art pieces, you could say. Another wonderful partner was Plastic Whale, and maybe you have heard about them. It's just an example of all these amazing change makers that were involved. And Plastic Whale was interested in fishing for plastic, actually, in the Amsterdam canals. And nowadays, they are so highly valued, because when people want to have a tour trip through the canals, they book a tour with plastic, and not only get to know the city, but also are fishing for plastics. And big attraction, they have to rent now from other boat rentals because they got too much interest, let's say, but there's still enough plastic to get out of the canals, so don't worry. And now also we looked into all kinds of innovations, what to do with the waste, and of course you have all kinds of, whether recycling materials for bags or for shoes, for whatever. But this one here was also interesting by Nick Mulvey. Other artists had these kind of public activities, and here it's a public installation made out of single-used plastic bags, but only the white ones. And after 3 days, you can imagine how it looked. It was very messy. And there's also a great YouTube documentation video, this work by Julia Weg and Erika Kraponsai. And because they were asking the participants, or not the participants, but the people who passed by, what they thought of this installation. And some of the people, they thought that just a waste management company would have forgotten these staples of plastic waste. But then they listened also to a sound piece by another artist, and then they recognized, okay, it was an art piece, and should somehow make them aware of the mass waste production. And then we had a follow-up project this year. It was called, it's called the Plastic Revolution. And here we brought together experts from lots of different fields to inspire young people, mostly to come to plastic pollution. And maybe I have another, here you can see the process. So in the first, we created a digital platform to inspire for action. So we created a huge knowledge base, let's say, and also provided lots of different change makers and their wonderful solutions. And then we ask young people to ideate their own solutions, and it could have been teachers or other educators that helped these young people, but also we had online workshops as this you could have seen before, where we had short impulses by experts, but then online co-creation workshops with the youngsters. And in the second phase, we had this kind of online makeathon with a huge and rich program of solution providers and also mentors to help accelerate the ideas. And then we had an acceleration program where also beautiful ideas were brought to life and really high potential, let's say, to really tackle this issue of plastic pollution. And the award ceremony had to be done also online, unfortunately. But now I hope that all these great solutions will be market ready soon. Yeah. So, and before we now go also in this kind of interactive part I had planned for us, I just want to show you what I'm interested at the moment the most, because I recognize that there are so many great and beautiful solutions already out there, but we really have to find our focus, where we want to head to. And that's why I also choose this topic of future for today, because it's even when we think about future and we have some trends in our minds, it's so important that first we have to recognize our wishes and get to know ourselves a bit better. And then that we co-create and really meld not only minds together, but also meld our solutions together. Yeah, and here you can see some examples. Future Lab. And here, this is now what I want to do with you as well. This is just a short insight what had happened at the weekend with Artists and Scientists for Future. And I didn't know at all whether it would work out in the beginning, that we really, could understand each other. And it was quite dry, I would say, in the beginning when the scientists started and gave some insights in their work, prospects for the future. But we managed to transfer, and I think everyone involved was very excited in the end. So this is now our network of collaborated with the Institute for Art and Innovation. Here are some more projects you could find out more on our website. Thank you so much. And yeah, someone also wrote a lot of work. Love this. Great. Thank you so much. And I wish you a wonderful experience at this great conference. Thank you so much for being here.